can roar, and very much a tiger theme this morning. So you'll see a lot of tiger images. Talking twofold. One is there's a big adaptation happening, and it's happening both with what we used to call the consumer, who we now call participants at Performix, and it's also happening with marketers. And what's really interesting about this adaptation in the marketplace and landscape is that it's really important for brands to understand how to do things is just as important as what they do. So for those of you who are outside, obviously, of the United States, you may or may not be familiar with a popular television show that is currently running in the U.S. It's a series that's been running for several years. And the whole notion is around the show is really how advertising began, and it was the first disruptive era for advertising, which is when television came into play. The show is called Mad Men, and so it's very accurately depicting how these men and women started creating advertising for television, and the whole idea was around creating a single creative big idea that was persuasive. So really for the last 60 years, we've been creating marketing programs to take the next step to do something. And in those days, actually creating a persuasive idea worked because there was a shortage of communication and information and transportation. So if you recall, at least in the United States, an advertiser could air a television show 3 times and reach 85% of the people that they wanted to service. And if they didn't see a television ad, if they didn't have a print ad, they might never know about that product and service because information and communication was really scarce. But we all understand that the world is dramatically different today. So especially as we're talking here in Asia, imagine the change that happens every hour, every day, every week. And so the landscape and technology that allows us to connect to information and communication is dramatically different than it was 60 years ago. In addition to that, it's really difficult sometimes because of technology to tell what is the real world versus the virtual world. And all these experiences are blurring together. And so it's creating an environment for marketers that are highly complex. And it's also created an expectation change for what we'd like to call the participant, who used to be the consumer. Shifting expectation as the participant. They fundamentally believe in this new age that we live in, that everything should be searchable and all content should be at their fingertips. They want to connect with others, and they feel like fair trade is ads for content. So as my children, their definition of advertising is very different than my definition was growing up. And customers now expect to be heard and have a dialogue with a brand, especially if something goes wrong. But at the same time that all of these expectations and changes have occurred for the participant, there are also changing expectations for the marketer. And those have to do with the fact that in many cases, not necessarily here in the Philippines, but many markets have experienced it in the economy. And so ROI, or return on investment, is really important to these marketers. They want to make sure that they're reaching the right person. It's a very complex, fragmented marketplace. So are they reaching the right person? And they want to actually have this relationship or a dialogue with the participant, like the participant desires. But in many cases, that's very scary to them because they feel like it's relinquishing control. And so there are these two opposing forces that aren't necessarily a good blend when it comes to marketing today. You have the participant who has expectations, and you have marketers that have a different set of expectations, and yet it's our role as a marketer to try to put these two pieces together. There's an interesting study that has recently been conducted by IBM. They launched it in 2011, and it's still online today. If you're interested in looking at the complete study, you can actually go online, and if you are a CMO, you can actually participate in the research project as it's a living project. It's called From Stretched to Strengthened. And universally across the globe, all marketers are saying the same thing, that they're also recognizing that they're using old tools, old processes, old language, and old approaches that are no longer valid in today's marketplace. And it's really important, in order to be successful, they also recognize that they need to focus on relationships, not just transactions, not just persuasion or communications. So in essence, what we really fundamentally believe as you think about this transition from the old way of doing persuasive marketing, our new goal as marketers is not just to be persuaders, but to inspire and encourage participation. So marketing through, and if you all of your customers or potential customers or participants, as we call them, are carrying around computers in their pockets in many cases, or they have access to a computer that allows them to participate with a brand. What's really also interesting about this whole notion of participation is actions really are the manifestation of participation in today's environment. So the fact that individuals can actually take part in something, they can like a product, they can share a product, they can search for a product, all of those are actions that are representative of participation. And one of the ways I like to visualize this action is if you think about these as two spinning wheels. So on the one hand, the brand has one wheel that they're trying to spin. And within that wheel, there's a variety of information that they would like to get to the participant at any given time. It might be information about a new product. It might be customer support information. It might be valuable content. At the same time, you have the participant that's seeking that information, utilizing that new technology. In fact, they have so much information that they're dealing with today, it's difficult to make sure that these two connect at the right time in the right place. If you do connect, then you're likely to have behalf of the participant, and in that, from a marketing standpoint, you also achieve performance. And what's assumed in this process is that the brand is actually creating value by connecting with a participant at the right time at the right place. At Performix, we consider it our role to actually facilitate and nurture those connection points within the two wheels. What's really interesting today is that as I went and researched my book that I wrote about nurturing participation, one of the things that I discovered is the most common metaphor for marketing is actually war. And you can blame Jack Trout and Al Ries, who in the mid-1980s wrote a book called Positioning. They really utilized the war metaphor. And that was during a time when we were moving into the direct marketing space, and so war was that primary metaphor. But if you think about what we're trying to achieve today, and if our role is not to just persuade, if our role is really about inspiring people to come on board and participate with us and take part in something, war is probably not a great metaphor. So we'll talk about in a few minutes where I think we need to move to and why it's important to think about marketing as really more nurturing and less warlike. In the process of actually moving us from being the great persuaders to the inspirers of participation, if you will, one of the things that I had to go back and research was I know, and as a marketer understand what makes a great persuasive campaign. We were taught about creating a single big idea that if we reach that emotional benefit, that would persuade people to think different. But if our new role is really about inspiring people to take part, I needed to understand the science behind participation. And actually there is one. It's been studied actually for centuries by sociologists and psychologists. And most recently there are two professors at the University of Rochester in New York who are really leading the research in this area, not related to marketing. But the science is called self-determination theory or intrinsic motivation. If you do a study, if you do a search online for self-determination theory, you will see some researchers come up in this area. It's not been really applied to marketing. It's been applied to education. It's what helps professors create classrooms that, environments that help students learn better. It's been applied to human resources. It's how employers help create environments that help people keep motivated and stay working for them for a longer period of time. But it's really never been relevant to apply it to marketing until now, until, you know, really our constituents, our participants have the technology that enables us to have a relationship with them. So the formula that you see here, and it's not a true scientific or mathematical formula. I actually created a formula just so that it's easy to remember for marketers, and I put it into a framework that potentially marketers could use when, instead of creating a creative brief, now they're using it to create a participation brief, if you will. So the D, which is the first part of the formula, stands for discover. And this is the part of self-determination theory that's really about competence. It's about the fact that humans love to continually learn. But more important maybe than continually learning is the fact that they get great satisfaction out of becoming competent about something, really having enough expertise to feel like that you're an expert in a certain area. And that's an important component in this creating this environment that's rewarding for people from a participation standpoint. So the D element of the formula is actually not that foreign to marketers. It actually is something that marketers have been doing for a great period of time. If you think about the fact that we are good about telling customers about our products and services and providing them with information, what we might learn from this, though, is the fact that competency is very rewarding. So I have had marketers ask me the question, should I develop a rewards program? But that's not quite it, is it? Because rewards is really rewarding people for using the product, not becoming more knowledgeable about it. So think about creating environments that actually reward people for becoming more knowledgeable about your product and service. The next element of the formula is empower. And this is where it starts to get a bit more uncomfortable for marketers, because empowerment is about inviting customers to actually contribute in a meaningful way to your brand. And if you think about it, it makes total sense. If you're going to join something or become part of something, you don't want to do so unless you feel like you have a truly meaningful role. And that's really what empower is about. And more brands, I think, are understanding that even if customers are joining or providing feedback or they're involving customers in their brand, allowing them to participate is actually rewarding for the product or service. So one of the examples that I like to talk about in this case is I use a brand called Athleta in the U.S. I'm an outdoors person, so I use their products for skiing. But the great thing about it is I can look up a product online, and even from the negative comments that are posted from individuals, I learn something about the product. And just because someone else didn't like it doesn't mean that I won't. So this is a great thing to remember when you're trying to create an environment that also includes the empowerment component of the Participation Way framework. So lastly, the last element that we're talking about here is C, and C is for connection, and really connection means community. it goes back to our human roots again, and the fact that we enjoy connecting with other individuals, especially individuals who have similar passions as we do. And I think this is also an area that brands tend to forget when they're creating marketing programs. I think they're great at providing connection points to connect with a brand, but they don't necessarily think about creating a community where individuals can talk to one another in a meaningful way. So the notion is, if you create an environment that really helps people become more competent, empowers them to become part of the process, and involves them in a community, you will have greater participation in your marketing program. And when you have greater participation, you will ultimately have greater performance, because how we measure performance today is really actions that people take. So lastly, I'd like to leave you with some thoughts about this whole nurturist approach. As I mentioned, the old way of thinking about marketing and the old metaphor for marketing has really been around war. And I think if we're going to inspire people to take part with us, then really we need to inspire a more nurturing type of environment. And the nurturing type of environment is really based less on what we would consider the old mechanistic view of the world and more of a biological view of the world. So there are really about 5 rules that I've really outlined in terms of, if you're going to create a nurturist environment, these are rules that I think we can all really learn from. And all of them come also from a science called complex adaptive systems, which is really what we learn from nature, what happens around us that allows nature to be successful. And there are 5 rules here that I think apply very well not only to marketers, but the companies in which they live in. So this is about creating an environment that embraces this whole notion of moving fast in the marketplace that we now live in the fragmented and complex media marketplace. So it isn't just about creating environments where people enjoy engagement, but it also allows us to be successful in our constantly changing environment that we're living in today. So the first rule is really about embracing test and learn values. So this is the notion that in order to scale in today's environment, we really need to and advise our clients on reserving 10% of their budgets toward testing and learning. And this is important because really it's the only way to scale, because in today's new environment, cycles are happening faster and faster. And so you need to be there and actually ride the wave up when the cycle is positive, and then get out as soon as that cycle starts to decline. Some of our more progressive marketers are actually reserving about 30% of their overall marketing budgets to testing and learning. And this allows them to stay ahead of the curve, and the minute they start to see something that's declining and no longer working like it was, they have a list of other things that are starting to work that they can immediately replace that with. The second rule is around innovation and the lack of perfection. And this is a hard one, I think, for marketers, because we are perfectionists. But it's really important, again, given the fragmented and fast-moving pace in which we're all living today, to move quickly and not necessarily work so hard at perfecting something. This is something that, honestly, I struggled with when I wrote my book, because using Microsoft Word, every time I would open the document and continue writing my book, it would open at page 1, and consequently I would start to rewrite chapter 1, which I thought, gosh, I'm never going to finish this book if all I do every time I open the document is rewrite page 1. But I continually wanted to continue to perfect the book from the beginning, and I had to train myself to just go to the end and keep going, knowing that the end product might not be perfect, but it's better to have it out there than have it just be perfect. The third rule is really about acting quickly and motivating others. And this includes not only others in your own organization, but also motivating your participants or your customer. So again, the marketplace is moving very quickly, And the fact that we have great power and we have the tools and technology at our fingertips that enables us to motivate others is really key here. The fourth rule is about mixing and blending. You don't necessarily have to invent everything yourself. So there are great either products or services or partners that you could potentially work with that allow you to take something that isn't necessarily an original big idea that no one's done, but it might be a variation of something. And if you can quickly take it, mix it, and blend it with something else, you can move on and actually have a big impact. And again, I think we spend a lot of time as marketers really thinking about how we can do something that's unique and different and totally never been done before, when in fact you can do something unique and different by mixing and blending and creating something unique that's yours, but maybe not as original as we used to think in the old days when we would spend months trying to figure out what that next big idea was. If we do that today, it'll be too late. And lastly, the fifth rule is really embracing failures as gifts in the pursuit of results. This one to me is particularly important because it's really a cultural value shift. It allows or invites employees to try new things and maybe not be successful the first time out. So we work with a big catalog retailer that's actually an international catalog retailer at Performix, who produces a fantastic coffee table-like catalog twice a year. This is the type of catalog that people keep on their tables for a long time. But this retailer has known for actually years that there's about a 2-week window right after the catalog launches where if they could actually capture online demand through search from that catalog drop without losing the efficiency of the campaign, that it would really pay off for them. And what's unique about this is that our team that we had was very passionate inside Performix to actually deliver results for this client. But it took them 4 failed tries before they actually succeeded in capturing demand while at the same time preserving campaign efficiency. So I think it's important to learn a lesson here that, the client was willing to take the risk and willing to partner with us and willing to fail a few times before knowing that we would actually get to a great result for them. And we, at the agency level, I also allowed my people to fail and for it to be okay to fail, knowing that we were on a path to actually achieve something great. So I'm going to skip through these. So finally, you'll take a minute for the slides to catch up. I wanted to leave you with some of the notion about some questions to ask yourself in terms of, is your company a nurturist? And what can you learn from the presentation today? So first and foremost, as I mentioned, what percentage of your budget is really invested in testing and learning? And are you valuing that? Do you have governance models in place to become organizational barriers? There are very few organizations that are structured perfectly to where you can actually, everyone's in the right role at the right place. And marketing's touching many different departments today. But that shouldn't necessarily be a barrier. You can actually create governance models that helps compensate for organizational barriers that are difficult to overcome. I have a lot of empathy for this since I spent so much time in big corporate organizations, and I know many individuals often feel like that they can't overcome organizational barriers, but there are ways to get around that. Do your managers champion innovation, speed to action, and risk? I think that's a key in terms of evolving to become a nurturist. And are partnerships encouraged? Again, if you want to not necessarily invent, but mix and blend and move quickly, partnerships are a great way to do that. So in closing, I thought I would just mention the fact that obviously the participation age is here to stay. It's not going around anytime soon. We're not going to put individuals' expectations back in a box. Everyone expects to interact in a new way, in the way they're doing today. Marketing through participation is in. Remember, we are not the great persuaders anymore. Our new role as marketers is to inspire participation. And the good news is there is a formula for that. So if you're struggling with trying to figure that out, the participation way is a great way to do that. Our new metaphor, instead of the old metaphor of war, is really more like gardening. And think about that as you're developing your marketing programs. And finally, nurturists really require new organizational values to thrive. It's not just about what you're doing, it's really about how you're doing it. And sometimes that's even bigger than marketing. So I hope that that was an interesting presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions before we turn the presentation over to Gareth.
All right, thank you very much, Dana. So guys, it's time for your 5-minute Q&A portion, and if you have a working mic, you can just click on the hand icon so I can unmute your mic. Otherwise, you can just use the chat box. So Dana, we actually have a first question from one of our participants. So first question would be, I completely agree that we are in an age where it is a basic expectation for brands to dialogue or engage consumers. Are there any case studies that shows more consumer or that show more consumer participation positively correlates with sales, increased product usage?
Well, yes, and it actually goes even beyond that. So if you think of the brand that I mentioned earlier, Athleta, who has invited individuals to participate with their brand, provide brand feedback, not only is that improving sales for them, it's also improving efficiency because they're using that feedback to feed into even their new product development. So it's moving far beyond marketing. So another retailer that I'm aware of who's also being very progressive in this space is the retailer Zara. It's a clothing retailer as well. So they're looking at products, consumer comments online and what people are saying about their products and services, and they're moving quickly to adapt either the products that they already have in play or develop new products. So not only is it improving sales volume, it's also improving their product quality and even their future sales results, which is very impressive.
All right. Any other questions, guys? All right, another one from Aram Jason Marcelo. Since brands are trying to be more human in communicating with participants to get them to engage, would this impose that an emotional appeal would be a better way to communicating a functional appeal?
Yes, I mean, I think the whole notion of the participation way is about humanity, right? It's about what motivates us as people. And so if we're able to actually communicate on a human level to individuals, I think that's far more appealing. One of the things I didn't talk about today is the importance of creativity. So creative is still very important in this whole notion, and there are specific attributes related to creativity that also can be woven in here. So the participation way is just about the type of environment that you want to create with your potential constituents or your participants. But certainly adding creativity and adding creative elements is also very important.
All right. Last question before we proceed with our next speaker. All right, so next question is from Cara Francesca Del Rosario. Do you know of a Filipino brand who's doing very well in creating participation that turned into higher sales?
I do not. That's something that we can ask our Philippine team, though, and get back to you with that answer. since I'm not as close or intimate with your market. Performix is in 30 markets around the world, so I don't have intimate knowledge of what's happening in every single market, but we certainly can get back to you with that information.
All right, so I think we can accommodate the next question from Aileen Paat. How much does a company or brand gain in terms of revenues if they use participant marketing techniques such as the use of crowdsourcing and social media marketing? And could you give a range?
Oh gosh. The goals and financial results for each brand are so different that it would be almost impossible for me to give you a range. I will tell you that the way that we like to look at it is two ways if you think about it, not just in terms of a financial range, but asking yourself at the beginning of every marketing program, what actions do we want people to take on behalf of our program? Sometimes that's leads, sometimes that's sales, sometimes the brand has very specific other results in terms of developing a community so that they actually are getting ready to launch a product, and then they want to take advantage of that when they're ready from a leads and sales standpoint. So there would be no way that I could give you a range because that's such individual to the individual brand. I think the best thing that if you are a brand marketer that you can do is consider the actions that you want people to take and what actual business outcomes do you want to achieve, and share that with your marketing partner, and then develop a plan consistent with the participation way that actually will achieve those goals. And one of the best ways to do that, if you're not sure what you need to spend, is really embracing that testing and learning approach. And once you find something that works, scale it quickly, and then move on to the next thing.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you to the 3 participants who asked. As much as we wanted to accommodate all your questions, guys, please save those for later because Dana will be staying here. So after the second speaker, we will still have another Q&A portion. So we are now moving on to our next speaker. All right. Our next speaker is Gareth Mulryan, currently oversees digital in Asia Pacific for Zenith Optimedia Group with the main aim of digitalizing the agency in line with consumer habits. As part of that solution, Gareth is driving the Performix solution to deliver performance marketing in Asia, supporting the live ROI proposition. Gareth has spent the last 5 years living in Asia based out of Singapore and Shanghai. After spending 3 years of Goldman Sachs, Gareth began his digital career 14 years ago, and in that time, he has worked within a media agency, a DM agency, and a full-service digital agency. This has given him a good spectrum of experience across all roles within the communication industry, from TV to analytics, from creative to project management. Please welcome Gareth Mulryan. Hi Gareth, good afternoon. I'm going to make you the presenter so you can show your screen.
Unmuted.
Great.
Great.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Twinkly. I'm
Muted.
Follow on from what Dave was saying. Dave was very much talking about our philosophies, how we've adapted and changed.
and into what we
Unmuted.
call a participant, and I'm going to talk more about what's
Muted.
going on in APAC and what's going on in the Philippines specifically. We've been expanding our network in Asia rapidly over the last 2 years, and as part of that process and development, it's very much key that your great market of the Philippines is part of that. So I apologise. My presentation has a lot more data and numbers, unlike fluffy tigers that Dana had. But I'm sure you'll appreciate those data. So, as Twinkle said, I've been in Asia for about 6 years now, and I've seen huge growth in APAC during that period of time. Quite clear.
Hello.
That growth has
Sorry to
been-
cut you, Garrett, but I think the other participants are not hearing you clearly.
Can you hear me now?
On it right now.
Okay, we have the technician on.
Is that better?
Is that better?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let me know if it
Okay,
comes unclear
let me know
again,
that-
Twinkle. I'll continue.
I'll continue.
So, as I was saying,
So-
there's been exponential growth in Asia Pacific over the last 3 or 4 years, and this has actually been very much driven by technology, by publishers, and really driving the accessibility of the internet within this region. It's got to the point now where in 2013, this data's to the end of 2012, but in 2013, over half the world's internet population, will be based out of Asia Pacific. Obviously, we have 2 huge markets in this region, namely China and India, as a portion of the global population. But it's really important to note, underneath that, markets such as Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Korea, Japan, etc., are really contributing to that. So if you look at the size of Asia compared to other regions such as Europe and North America, it's absolutely the area to be. And this actually will grow quicker and quicker with the usage of mobile. Mobile currently in this region is growing faster than anywhere else. It is predominantly in mainline mobile in terms of phones, but the growth of smartphones has a huge opportunity to be able to give people that even more access to the internet going forward. Going on to the next slide, if I can. In terms of where the growth's coming from, we as a company, we do what called ad forecasting. We look at expenditure by region, by geography, by channel, and we look at what's going on over the next sort of 4 or 5 years, as well as having back data to give us a good prediction and forecast of what's coming. As you're probably all aware, there's been a huge economic downturn over the last 4 or 5 years globally. So we've changed our sort of regions to accommodate that change. You probably hear what's happening in Europe and even in sort of northern central Europe. There's been a decrease, and even with the recent good news with Japan, it's still a very, very slow market. So when you look at where the growth is going to come from globally, you can see that the key areas are in Asia. Advanced Asia would include Korea, Australia, and Singapore, and Malaysia. And the Fast Track Asia would include countries such as the Philippines. So I know, I think I heard this morning that your Q1 numbers were about 7.8, just under 8% growth in the first quarter, which is fantastic, which I think was up there amongst any other market in the world. So it's good to see that the Philippines is really driving this. And this is obviously where we need to look at in terms of what we need to do as a business to grow, specifically in this region. And when it comes to what type of channel and what type of media, as you can see, it's not just the internet globally that's where the growth is going to be. It's actually what we call the screen-based media. Obviously, over the next couple of years, television will converge on to multiple devices, and accessibility of television, which is already happening in the Western world, will be accessed through digital and different devices. So you can see that predominantly most of our expenditure is going to be within the internet and television area. So if you look at the regional growth, and you look at the type of channels and where that's going to come from, it's very much in the digital domain, and this is an area that we need to make sure that we're addressing to make sure we're ahead of the game for our participants. And how are we reacting as an industry to this? And it's quite interesting. This is these numbers here on the slide in terms of aligning priorities are taken across Asia Pacific. There are certain markets in here that dominate to inflate the percentage, such as Japan and China. Japan is the second biggest advertising market in the world. China is now the third biggest advertising market in the world. But what's very interesting is over the next 8 to 10 months, the internet will finally overtake print in this region, which I think is a really interesting alignment. There are some other markets that need to catch up, and I'll go through those in a minute. But for you guys that are on the phone, and I believe predominantly most of you are in the digital arena, you definitely chose the right career moving into this area. Okay. Ooh. Sorry. Moving on to the next slide, which is a bit more detail in terms of what's happening in the digital world. As you can see, as I said before, China and India dominate this region, but you know, Japan and Indonesia and those other markets down to Taiwan, these are big digital numbers if you compare it to any other market globally. And it's quite interesting in terms of the absolute numbers of accessing the internet. And then on the right hand side, in terms of penetration, it's then looking at what's the potential. So as you can see, there's some markets that are quite small, such as Singapore and Australia, where the penetration is quite high in those markets, and they're much more advanced. But if you look at some other markets such as China, Vietnam, Thailand, and your own market here in the Philippines, we've still got lots of opportunities to grow, and that's great for us as a company, as a company in terms of where we need to develop. And as you can see, tonight we'll be launching performance in this market, and this is obviously very much a key reason why we're doing it. In terms of looking at the media spending, again, looking at our forecasts, we very much look at which markets are key digital media spenders and what's the percentage of media spend happening. And we look across the region. Obviously, you can see China and Japan, again, not only being big markets in terms of advertising, very much big markets driving that digital agenda, followed by Korea and Australia. And then, obviously, as we sort of move across as a market, they get smaller and smaller and probably delivering under 5%. But when we introduce companies and forward-thinking companies like Performix into the market, it's good to see that we absolutely knock those numbers out of the park, and we really drive that digital agenda. So, as an example, in Korea, our percentage is over 50%. In Australia, it's over 25%. In Taiwan, it's 23%. In New Zealand, it's over 25%. Singapore is 32%. And with the introduction of Albert and the team this year, in the run-up to what we're doing in the Philippines, he's already ahead of the market rate, which is great. And obviously, we want that to continue in terms of driving our clients going forward. So that's kind of the setup. As you can see, Philippines is a market that's moving in the right direction. It's in a region that's absolutely critical to the growth of what we need to do globally. And as part of that, what we need to really do is focus in terms of delivering performance in this market. So Performix, So you've heard a lot from Dana, who's our global CEO, just earlier in terms of our philosophy and what we're driving. Just want to just go through some bit more details, so some more practical stuff, so you have a better understanding of us as a company. Performix is part of the Publicis Group. It's just going to come up in a minute. Performix is part of the Publicis Group. Publicis Group is the third largest communication group globally, and within that, it's the second largest media and buying group. But it's very much, absolutely very much, the leader in in digital. Sorry, we're just my slides are a bit slower than the presentation. So very much a leader in digital, as you can see from this slide. So hopefully you can see a circle with 3 pies in there. And within that leadership, Performix sits within Zenith Optimedia. Zenith Optimedia is very well known within Philippines, looking after some luminous clients, illustrious clients such as Nestle and L'Oreal and Aviva and Globe Telecom, which I'm sure you all heard of. And Performix is very much part of that that will be driving the ROI. In terms of the Performix heritage, Performix started just under 15 years ago, and it started off as an affiliate marketing company, and very much focused on SEO. SEO being the more technical part of search engine marketing. As Google came about at the turn of the century, and started auction bidding, it very much then sort of focused on PPC marketing. That's pay-per-click within Google. At the heart of what we always did was obviously still the technology part of SEO, because there's obviously a lot of technology that goes with our marketing. It's very much the science as well as the marketing art of bringing that together. And one of the things that we very much drive from our side when we're looking at performance marketing is looking at search as one space. Search engine results on a Google page is a bit like a shelving within a supermarket. It's about owning that page. In terms of retail companies, FMCG clients, they very much want to own that shelf space. I always like the example that Colgate in any given market probably has about 8 different toothpastes, and it's probably only 2 that are doing well. But the reason why they have 8 there is to block the competition from trying to get any market share. And it's very much the same with search. You know, you need to very much own that shelf space, very much own the PPC and the SEO, and then take learnings and the data from that and improve your market, your client's ROI. Since sort of early 2000, several changes within Performix. It was at one point part of Google after the acquisition of DoubleClick, and then became part of our family, part of the Publicis Group family in 2010, and launched alongside Zenith Optimedia. And as you can see, over the last couple of years, we've been growing this company globally. And as Dana said, we have now a presence in 30 markets globally, and the Philippines will be the 7th market in Asia Pacific. In terms of what we deliver in Performix, it all depends very much on the marketplace and the maturity of that market, the type of clients that market has, and what the key focus is in terms of what our clients are looking for. You can't just go with one solution globally, because it doesn't quite work like that. So it's very clear from this market, although search is growing, and performance marketing is growing, with the introduction of Google here last year, I think one of the things that's really quite clear is making sure that we're connecting with our consumer in a both a social way and a more creative way. So the core offerings that we will be delivering in the Philippines will be very much looking at not just the performance marketing, but also looking at how we can create things to make sure we're linking those concepts with the consumer. However, what's extremely important that we hope that we'll deliver that will be very much different to the competition is that we have absolutely performance at the heart of everything that we do. So whether we're delivering performance marketing in the owned environment, whether we're delivering performance marketing in the paid environment, such as display, or very much delivering performance marketing in the earned environment, you know, we very much will measure and make sure that's accountable and make sure that's very much at the core of everything we do. And I know, you know, Albert and his team are applying this diligently and setting up this team in terms of the correct training with Google and the correct training with all the tools that will be at the disposal of, for our clients. In terms of those tools and understanding those things, in terms of having the data to deliver in front of our clients and understanding what the consumer is doing, it's obviously very important that we have those tools at our disposal. This is something that's absolutely key to how we, not just as Performix, but as a group, operate. In terms of how we deliver our tools, there's kind of two areas, well, three areas that we look at this landscape. One is we have our proprietary technology, and at a later date we can share with you some videos on our tools such as Glance and Bench tools and social tools. Just picking those ones out. In terms of social tools, this is a tool that we use globally. We look at, I think, something like 82,000 Facebook web pages. We look at over 300,000 Twitter handles and multiple YouTube screens. And what it's doing is basically looking at the competitive insights of what's happening with our brands, or our clients' brands, within the social environment, to take out insights in terms of what we're doing, to make sure that we're looking after our clients' brands within that social environment. And very much, you know, going back to what Dana was saying before, you know, making sure that we've got the right insights and information to be able to participate with the consumer. Bench tools is a much more sort of practical tool in terms of looking at the insights of, again, our clients' competitors within the search environment, whether that's on Google, whether that's on Yahoo, Bing, or Naver in Korea, or Baidu in China. And it really looks at, you know, whether we're doing a good job in terms of ranking position and coverage, both in the PPC world and also looking at the coverage within the SEO world. It gives us an idea of what's happening over a period of time, making sure that our competition, or clients, should I say, our clients' competition is not getting the edge over us. It also is very good at identifying the right sort of ad copy to make sure that that ad copy is performing its best within the Google algorithms, making sure that we're delivering on the best ROI. So it's a very much a best-in-class data set. And then the final one is Glance. Glance is what we call, it's not a great terminology, but it's a terminology we use in our industry called a dashboard, and it's the idea of making us as a company much more efficient and nimble for our clients to be able to take all the data from all different kinds of data sets. It can be data sets within search, it could be data sets within social, it could be data sets within competitive analysis, it could be data sets within TV station data. It can be data sets coming from DoubleClick or MediaMind, etc. And it's basically having that data at our fingertips to be able to make informed decisions in terms of what we're doing in terms of our communication planning. The second part is the third-party platforms. I'm sure some of you are aware of these different platforms. We're very much, as an agency, tool agnostic. It's, I think, one of our USPs that we can go to a client and choose a proprietary tool that maybe the client is already using and doesn't want to spend money on a new one, or we can go in and use a tool that's best in that market. So basically, all our employees are very much trained on all these tools. However, the one thing that we'll always do, depending on the market, depending on what we're trying to achieve with that client, we'll always come in with an opinion to be able to drive that. And the different tools do different things, whether it's Marin in bid management, whether it's BrightEdge in SEO, whether it's DoubleClick in terms of display. And then, in terms of this, the last part is something that we get because of our size. As I said before, we are the second biggest media buying agency in the group in the world. We're also the biggest and leading digital operations globally. So with that, we get to sit at the table with our key partners, and again, working with our key partners to make sure we're delivering the right products and the right media to our brands and our clients. Moving to the last few slides, I've kind of touched on this in terms of our regional presence. In terms of performance marketeers, we're across 9 different offices. Manila will be our newest and our 10th office. We have over 220 performance employees to go alongside our over 500 digital practitioners and over 1,200 Zenith Optimedia employees in the region. And this is really important because, as I said, each market is slightly different. I've been in Asia for 6 years now. Not one Asian country is the same as the other. And in fact, if you look at Asia, it's kind of 5 continents within one. If you look at Japan and Korea as one area, you look at China as a standalone, you look at India as a standalone, then you have the ASEAN, and then you have Australia and New Zealand down at the bottom. So very, very different, and that's why it's important to have people on the ground locally to support the nuances and deliver on what's needed in each of those markets. And then I'm on my final slide, which is just to give you an understanding of the type of clients we have. I think we have a really nice selection of clients in the region. This is the clients in APAC. I think these are attractive clients. They are clients that are really exciting for us as a team to work on. If anyone that's interested in working on these clients, please contact Albert. I'm sure he'd be very much open to listening to people that would like to be part of the Performix team here. And a lot of these clients are in the Philippines. The other thing that's quite interesting about these clients is they're all different. Some, as you can see, are probably very performance-based, whether it's eBay and PayPal, online, telecoms such as Verizon, airlines such as Air France, Qantas. But we also look after FMCG clients such as Nestlé and L'Oreal, which are two of our key clients within the Philippine market. So that's our insights on Asia Pacific. It's an absolute critical region from a growth perspective and from the channels that we look after. It's absolutely important that we continue to grow as a network, and I'm so happy that we have Albert on board, and he's going to be driving the Performix brand within Asia Pacific, and I think very much exciting times within Performance Philippines. Great. Any questions?
Right. Thank you very much, Garrett. So guys, let's give our speakers a quick break, maybe 5 minutes before we move on to your much-awaited Q&A portion. Meanwhile, we'd like you to learn more about various opportunities in the digital industry. So I'd like to introduce my colleague Margie Flores. She is the marketing manager of eLearning Edge, and she will tell you about the Certified Digital Marketer program by the International Institute of Digital Marketing. Good afternoon, Marge. I'm going to make you the presenter so you can show your screen. Hi, Marge.
All right. Hello, Twinkle. All right. Thank you, Twinkle, and hello, everyone. Okay, so first, let me congratulate you guys for attending this awesome webinar. I'm sure everyone is learning a lot because I sure am, and congratulations in taking the step towards learning digital marketing. And we here at the CDM program is more than happy to help you achieve your goal towards learning. All right, so speaking of learning, we still have enough time left to entertain your questions for Dana and Garrett. I suggest you guys make the most out of it and go ask. But before that, let me just take 5 minutes of your time to introduce the CDM program. The Certified Digital Marketer program is by the International Institute of Digital Marketing, or IIDM. It is actually just one of IIDM's 3 pillars, which is under executive or professional education. The other 2 are digital marketer. There. The other 2 are digital marketer, that's for undergraduate students, and the 3rd pillar is research. That is in partnership with MORES, or the Marketing and Opinion Research Society of the Philippines. Our latest research is actually about mobile marketing effectiveness, and hopefully we can share the results with you guys. Yes?
Marge, sorry, but we cannot see your PowerPoint presentation if you are showing a PowerPoint presentation to everyone.
All right.
There you go.
All right. All right. Okay. So there. Okay. So thanks again, Twinkle. And going back, the Certified Digital Marketer program is again by the International Institute of Digital Marketing, or IIDM. The Certified Digital Marketer program is just one of the 3 pillars under IIDM, and that is under executive or professional program. The other 2 are digital marketer, that's for undergraduate students, and research. Again, our latest ongoing industry research is about mobile marketing effectiveness, and I'm sure we can share the results with everyone for your perusal within or before the 4th quarter of the year. All right, so CDM national and local partners. Our certifications are recognized internationally by top digital organizations working with us as our advisory board members. They are Ogilvy One Worldwide, Omnicom Media Group, Aegis Media, Havas Media Ortega, LaborNet, Mobex, MRM Worldwide, Zillit Optimedia, and the International Conference on Online Measurement, or ICOM. Aside from our international partners, of course, we also have local partners. We have IMAP, or the Internet and Mobile Marketing Association of the Philippines, Philippine Association of National Advertisers, Philippine Retailers Association, Philippine Marketing Association, Ateneo de Manila University, and De La Salle University. Aside from our international partners, of course, we have local and international organizations as our advisory board. We also have individual experts as members. These members are leaders in digital marketing industry. To name a few, we have Arlina Marante, our co-director of the CDM program and the Southeast Asia head of Yahoo. We have Leia Jimenez, Digital Media Head at Smart Communications. We have Rohit Dedwal, Managing Director of Mobile Marketing Association, APAC. And of course, we have Mr. Hans Roas Chua, another co-director of the CDM program and the CEO of eLearning Edge. All right, so the certifications issued by the CDM program is by the International and Mobile Marketing Association of the Philippines, Ateneo de Manila, and De La Salle University. So basically, what is CDM program? In a nutshell, the CDM program consists of 12 digital marketing courses. To name a few, we have Mobile Marketing on the Go, ECRM, Effective Email Marketing, Digital Marketing Analytics, and E-Commerce. So basically, it tackles every channels of digital marketing. It's more of the holistic approach. Aside from these 12 courses, the CDM also offers 4 digital marketing specializations. We have Digital Media Planning Specialist, Social Media Marketing Specialist, Digital Marketing Analytics Specialist, and E-Business Specialist. So each specialization has its own set of track shares or subject matter experts. For the E-Business Specialist, we have the CEOs of Cash Pinoy and Glamster, and industry leaders from Henderson and Blake, Team Plano, and VMB Hypoallergenics as the subject matter experts or track chairs. For the social media marketing specialist, our track chairs are, one of them is Rosario One, social media director of Movent, Carla Ople of DM9 Digit, and Reza Custodia of Team Plano. Our track chairs for digital marketing analytics specialists are digital heads from McCann World Group and Team Plano. Lastly, let me introduce the track chairs for the digital media planning specialist. These leaders are from Yahoo Philippines, Google Philippines, and Havas Media Ortega. So what is the program methodology, or how does the program really works? Okay, so the CDM program is really built for executives or for marketing people, those people who are really into digital marketing and who have busy schedules. So each course is a blended course. It starts with a CDM bootcamp, which is the face-to-face session of the course, wherein you can meet your subject matter experts and ask questions for your brand. Okay, so followed by a 3 to 4 week online course with webinar sessions just like this one. So students can study anytime, anywhere. So yes, and that ends my short introduction. I told you it's just going to be a 5-minute introduction of the CDM program. Should you have any questions, please visit www.imadigitalmarketer.com or email us at sales@elearningedge.net. Thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you very much, Marge. So again, if you have or if you want to know more about the program, just visit www.imadigitalmarketer.com and email sales@elearningedge.net. All right, let's go back to our question and answer portion. Okay, we have, just give me a few seconds. I'm going to make myself a presenter because I'm going to show my screen. All right, I hope you guys are seeing my screen now. So we have questions here from the participants. First question is from Melody Tan. How can we measure the reach or impact of digital media?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Gareth.
Could you just ask that question again? Twinkle, can you ask that question again?
All right. Question is from Melody Tan. How can we measure the reach or impact of digital media?
Well, we use lots of varying methodologies. You know, impact can be many things. It could be reach. It could be particular leads, depending on the KPI. It could be sales. And you can utilize different measurement tools to be able to do that. You know, you can use ad serving tools such as DoubleClick, which is part of Google. You could use companies like MediaMind, and they can measure the reach of a particular campaign. They can also measure people responding to a particular advert, and then obviously all the actions that take place on the brand's website. You can measure that as well. So it depends on what the KPIs and what the brief was in terms of impact, but there's several areas you can measure. In terms of the search environment, you use bid management tools such as Marin and Kensho, DoubleClick as well. They have a product called DS3, and this obviously is measuring key ROI things, so cost per click, and then the effects of what happens within a website. If you're after more qualitative and quantitative impact, you can use research tools such as Dynamic Logic. You can use bespoke tools within Nielsen as well. It's a very accountable medium. In some ways it can be a bit too accountable in the past, but it's a very accountable medium. But the important thing is, so you don't get into data overload, is to be very clear what your objective is. Make sure you have clear KPIs and then measure accordingly to how well you've done to reach those KPIs.
Thank you very much, Gareth. So our second question is, what is your forecast of the digital media spend trend for the Philippines in the next 5 years?
What is my forecast digital spend for Philippines in the next 5 years? Well, that very much depends on the clients and the appetite, and it depends on the agency people very much driving that. I give you, every market's different. I spent 5 years in the UK where it went from single-digit numbers up to about 35% of all media is now spent in digital, and that was over a 5-year period. And we're talking about a $45 billion market. So everything's potentially possible. I think there needs to be an appetite. I think what I do like about the Philippines is there's a willingness to learn, and it's obviously been over the last couple of years really taken on board the social side of digital. I think, as I said before, Google set up shop here last year, so there's obviously there's a key want and a need to sort of drive that performance side of things. And then you have the bigger publisher websites as well in terms of taking branding money. But our overall forecast is that screen-based advertising, whether that's the internet or TV, and television will converge into digital, will continue to be the two key growth areas, whether that's in the Philippines, ASEAN, Asia, or globally. So I can't give you an exact number because I don't have that in front of me. We do these sort of forecasts, but I would it would be a minimum. You're currently at 2012 you were 3.5%. I would have thought over the next 5 years you should be at least getting to about 20%. You still there, Twinkle?
So, any more questions, guys? Okay, we have one last from Aliana Reyes. Is it better to be available at the different networks rather than focus on one, or will it really depend on the market you are targeting? For example, our company is the training and marketing provider and currently trying to market our brand and services. And we aren't a big company. I was just wondering if we should just focus on one network at a time rather than scatter but not as strong. I hope that makes sense. Thanks, Eliana, for asking.
So do you mean an independent agency versus a big agency, or do you mean spending money with ad networks?
Anna, do you have a working mic? Because I can turn your mic on so you can ask your question directly to Garrett. Hi, Eliana. Hello? I guess Eliana doesn't have a working mic, so I'll just repeat the question.
Okay.
All right. Is it better to be available at the different networks rather than focus on one, or will it really depend on the market you are targeting? For example, our company is a training and marketing provider and currently trying to market our brand and services. And we are not a big company. I was just wondering if we should just focus on one network at a time rather than scatter but not as strong.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand that question. Sorry.
Would you mind elaborating your question? Hello, Garrett.
Yeah.
It's networks, publisher sites like Yahoo
Okay, so
and Google.
are you saying okay, so I think the question is that it's quite a small client that with not much budget. Do you focus on just pouring all your money into one network, or publisher, rather than multiple networks? So I would test and learn with more than one. You don't get any learnings from just going or putting all your eggs in one basket. The philosophy that we very much work with is in most markets you should be addressing search, because obviously you'll have a website and people need to be able to find it. You should be, in this market specifically, you should be addressing some kind of social management. That doesn't mean just building a Facebook page, by the way. It means managing your own content to make sure that's being seen within a social environment. And then if you're starting to buy media, you need to at least have 2 or 3 publisher sites or networks to be able to understand and test which ones are responding well, depending on the creative message, depending on what environment within that network. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. I think that was the question.
Right. Thank you very much, Garrett, for answering that question. So I think we're good, and we will now end the session. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and we hope to see you again in our future webinars. Again, my name is Twinkle, and it was a pleasure moderating this webinar. Enjoy the rest of the day, guys. Exit the session. Just click on File, Exit Leave Webinar. Happy weekend.